All right. Good morning, everybody out there in the world. So, I survived that crazy storm last night. And I'll tell you, the thunder, the lightning was so intense. Yeah, it was very intense. The thunder. It was loud. It was sounding like cannons and sonic booms. And the lightning was very bright. Very bright. And someone recommend I don't stand next to windows or doors because that lightning could potentially even penetrate the windows or doors. So she was probably pretty correct because it would light up the whole room. And I wasn't even scared when you think about it because now I know what we're in for. Every single storm, anything could happen. But we were projected to have extensive damage and power outages and not even a flicker. Like, not even a flicker. But I'll tell you, that one loud clap of boom was intense. It was very, very loud. It was like, holy shit. It sounded like an explosion. And so anyways, I woke up this morning with a bunch of hives. No big deal. I released the demons, drank a little bit of coffee, not too much, because I'm just like, I'm drinking a little bit less coffee. I'm not saying I don't drink coffee at all, just a little bit less because it's now really like water. And if I'm gonna drink coffee, I didn't add milk this last time, but I'm just drinking water really for the most part. And I made that rice pudding, so I have a breakfast that has a lot of cream, and so really what we're talking about today is like the climate change, because we're in climate change. The storms are crazier, it's more intense. All the different contrails and chemtrails that people were having an issue with, saying it was poison. Nothing is poison, but now you see the intention. It's to make the atmosphere a lot more conductive, more like a plasma TV screen. Okay, like an LCD or, plasma TV screen, liquid television type of thing. And so when you have the barium and aluminum reflecting reflecting the light, and that light could have a type of image attached to it and also make the storms so much more aggressive. And of course, it's a highly conductive atmosphere. So now you see that that's what the intention of all those different planes in the sky releasing all this different particles that do accelerate and also can develop into images, like virtual images, which then makes you question almost everything that we've ever seen, whether it's 9/11 or anything else. All the UFOs that we see, people have seen, it makes you question, was that somebody in the military shooting a virtual image somewhere and people saw it? Now you got to question the whole alien thing. And then, not to say that George Tsoukalos, or this guy's name's in the Ancient Aliens, not to say that there were people and civilizations before us, but those people and civilizations are us. Reincarnated. We are the offspring of the people 6,000 years ago when it was the Anunnaki versus the Pleiadians. I've seen that dichotomy where the Pleiadians or the Northern Europeans, the lily white people, and then the Anunnaki, which they say could be reptilian, or they look like the Moors or the Muslims over there in, what is that called? Oh God, it was a name, the Ottoman Empire. I'm trying to remember all my history. Okay. And so it kind of still goes back to, oh gosh, racial tensions and this culture against that culture, which hasn't really changed that much. But, history does repeat itself. And so what happened 6,000 years ago could very well actually be happening today with the children of the people 6,000 years ago. All right, so climate change, aggressive storms, 15-minute cities. We know that we're eventually going to be in a 15-minute city where everything will be at our 15 minutes away, delivery services, hardly any cars, and you can only go 5 or 6 miles an hour. It'll be a lot more control over the people. And why are people having an issue with that? Well, they don't like people controlling them. But as you've seen with what's going on with the role of the family and the nature and the nurture, we are developing some pretty out of control people who need to be monitored. And when you have to have Facebook community standards, when you have to have law enforcement, that tells you that the nature and nurture, hand in hand, the family unit has developed some pretty intolerant and out of control adults who were pretty intolerant, out of control children. And nothing ever came out in the wash. No one ever evolved in that family or in that community. And is it their fault? It doesn't really matter whose fault it is. But that's kind of the outcome right now. So when you have 15-minute cities, I'm looking at the other side of it besides the whole control factor. When you have 15-minute cities, it will be easier for not only law enforcement to control, but then it'll also be probably even safer, potentially. Because then there might be a police force for every 15-minute city and some kind of authority to watch how people deal with the Pandora's box releasing. Because with these storms, a lot of growth happens. Well, it also fuels people's intentions, and it also develops cancer, disease, and chronic illness. So you don't want to be too far away from a hospital. And yeah, some people kind of flip out when the climate changes. And I mean, it's not going to be for a while because there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people in America. Let's just use America for an example. 300 million people. But last night's storms is so crazy. First, it was on the right side of my screen. So it's all about northeast. And I'm like at the eye of it. We did get a few, humdingers. But it wasn't as bad as I anticipated. And then this morning, everything's on the left side of the screen. As Canton, Ohio is the eye or the fulcrum, the origination point. And so everything's going that side. And a lot of rain. I guess there is flooding and all that stuff. So I'm not really concerned about 15-minute cities. I stay home anyways. The system is trying now to get people to start using their brain instead of always getting distracted out there. Because, yeah, when you have higher energy environment, you're not going to need to exercise as much. So as long as you're releasing demons. And so, yeah, and the system wants to bring back biodiversity, wants to bring back nature, because humans have a habit of just usurping all of the energy in the area they live in. Now, am I making excuses for what's going on as far as like Hawaii and other areas? How else is the system going to clean itself up? How else is the system going to self-regulate before things get out of control? No different than your body. You have to release those demons, or your body will be out of control and it will be taken over by a chaotic demon. That I showed a picture of a tire under pressure and there's a big old bubble. Okay, and that's what people are dealing with, is they have so much chaos, and so they are steadily taking on so much pressure. And when that pressure wants to release, it will release at the time they're not prepared for, and they could potentially not survive. All right. I know there was a glitch, so hopefully that, I should have just reset my internet before this. But can you hear me? Does this sound okay? Tanya, can you hear me if you're still watching? I'm sure you can, but I just want to make sure. All right. And so the role of men and women, the role of sexuality. All right. So let me just make sure something here. Give me 1 second. Oh, I survived. Okay. All right, well, that's fine. All right. All right. So, just FYI, women, you are the powerful neck who turns the man's head. The system gave the men the world to control because the system needed to strengthen the brawn and organization. And I see Tanya replying back. Let me see what she said. Yes, it sounds good. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so just FYI, women, you are the powerful neck who turns the man's head. The system gave the men the world to control because the system needed to strengthen the brawn and organization, needed to strengthen the brawn and needed the strength and the brawn and organization. Okay, the system needed the seed. The system had plenty of eggs because all of us can carry eggs, and even they said that men could actually develop eggs just from their DNA alone. All right, so the system had plenty of eggs, and it's very difficult to procreate through asexuality. Okay, I can't see somebody doing that whole spontaneous, immaculate conception like Mary, Mother of God. Because it's not just nature, it's how the child is nurtured. It's how that parents are nurtured. How does that carry down through the family line? And so when you're studying people who've been forced religion down their throat, when you're studying people who've had politics and spirituality and even certain sciences shoved down their throat, generation after generation, then you see the breakdown and you see all the different experiments realize themselves. And so, yes, the whole world is one huge giant experiment. So now that science can develop babies in a lab as well as a surrogate mother, we have artificial intelligence and robots. Men will have to redefine who they are. Get away. Oh, God. Okay. Leave me alone, little moth. So men will have to redefine who they are, not just women. Okay? And so I remember studying all of the different philosophers in the Greek and the Roman philosophy, all the different gods and philosophers. And I studied a little bit of Socrates. And I want to know who taught Socrates, because it wasn't like he woke up one day and developed a whole method or whatever. Okay? So somebody had to teach him. Well, it was a woman, but who taught the woman? Well, that's the thing, is maybe he was developed to be a tool. Were women the first women? Were women the only things on this earth, and then we played science and developed the man versus the other way around, the patriarch? It was Adam that developed Eve. That's where you have to question everything. And then you're looking at our society today, how powerful women are, that even they can train women and men to destroy her if she wants, as well as keep her alive. Because look who gets the children. It's the mother for the most part, unless she's completely out of line. Okay, so men will have to redefine who they are. And right now they're having a hard time redefining who they are. The women are having a hard time trying to figure out how to redefine her boys. Because there's still that programming of G.I. Joe versus Barbie. Okay. So men will have to redefine who they are, not just women. And according to the traditions, Aspasia was such a compellingly persuasive speaker that she taught both Pericles and the great military general and Socrates. The great military general and Socrates. Interesting. That's from medium.com. Aspasia, the woman who taught Socrates the art of debate. Socrates says that in his youth he was taught the philosophy of love by Diotima, a prophetess who successfully postponed the plague of Athens. So what you're looking at, what you're seeing is that the woman has taught the men has seduced the man and used her power that way, as well as taught the man how to intelligently debate. And so they let the men rise and do whatever, and let the women worship the men until the roles eventually reverse. And so then you see how then men were used as a tool. They are being used as a tool, as well as women. But who is going to be the evolutionary one? Who is going to be the one to develop change? Well, it's not going to be the man. Because the men are drunk with power right now, with their strength, with their penis, with their everything, with the roles that were given to them. And so they're not going to give up the power. So then it's a woman who has to now retrain her boys and retrain society how to fucking respect her. She is not some silent thing that is just used to be enslaved. She is now something that not only can develop life, but she has the intelligence if she's willing to use it. But again, the woman has taught women and men to treat her like a sex object, to treat her like is anything but intelligent with a voice. And so, yeah, women can develop the world against her, and the woman can also rise above the bullshit and develop her own thought process. But women have yet to really tap into that power because the roles of mother and wife and savior and scientist has taken over her life. So then you see, now I've heard, even my husband has said this, but he is from a very traditional, more of the Appalachian lifestyle, very strong, but there's still the old world way of thinking, which I completely respect because it gave the organization. But how men truly see women right now today, the younger men today who are 25, 30, even 45 and 50, women must follow the guidelines of being a whore in the sheets and a lady in the streets. That's how women have been pigeonholed. And now look at your Facebook. So you see the respectable woman with a career and a bunch of children, and she's gorgeous. But you know, as soon as the doors close, the man expects her to act like a Stepford wife, to have afternoon delights, at a drop of a hat, have sex with me, do this to me, do that for me, da 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 da. So many men expect the woman to make them feel amazing, though I know men does hard work out there, and that's what the woman was there for. Was while the men were building houses and building empires, the woman was there to not only cook and develop babies, but also relax the man and serve him. Oh, I can play the game. That's why my marriage has lasted over 10 years. I can play both sides. I can play intelligent, developing my brain female, and I also can play the game of, okay, I could be a wife in the bed, okay, but not porn star, and I also can make food for you, serve you. Before, I used to massage my husband's feet all the time and wash his feet. I played that game because I knew that was what he sort of expected on some level. It hasn't happened in a while, giving him massages and all that stuff. Occasionally, yes. But I know how that game is played. I know what men expect. But then eventually women have to break from those roles. Okay? They can play both sides, but it does get exhausting. That's why women and men this day and age only live to be about less than 80, because that's 80 years of serving a man, 80 years of working for the woman and the family. That's a lot of fucking years. When do those people get a break and develop themselves? Somebody has to force it, right? So women must follow the guidelines of being a whore in the sheets and a lady in the streets. That's how women have been pigeonholed into. That's how these families are going to raise their girls to be, especially when they promote family. That's the enslavement of women when you're expecting your daughters to have a bunch of children. Using her as a brood mare, which is basically a horse that has to procreate with all the different studs to develop the best winning racehorse, right? That's the enslavement of women. The notion that you don't have to die someday will set the woman free from enslavement. Because when you tell a woman she doesn't have to die someday, and she has plenty of time to accomplish the things, she doesn't have to fall into the roles that were forced in her in all the different religions and cultures, then she can kind of relax and be like, okay, I need to develop myself. I need to release the demons. I need to bring on substance. I need to feed my brain knowledge. And she doesn't have to go to a man to do that. She can go on the fucking internet. She can go to college. She can get a student loan and go to college, or work part-time and go to school part-time. Assuming that there isn't her mother and grandmother telling her that she needs to get off her ass and go find a husband to go take care of her because they're tired of taking care of her. But that's where the mothers and the grandmothers will destroy her family, because they're so traditional. And so that girl is enslaved to her mother and her grandmother. Because if her mother isn't there, then her grandmother is going to teach her the traditional ways. And or the father, who also is extremely traditional and expects his daughter to act like the quintessential concubine or first wife / concubine. But first she must learn how to raise the children. She must learn how to wash clothes. She must learn how to cook, which those are great skills. But I can even see the men pigeonholing their daughters into sexual and baby-making enslavement. So once she finishes up her duties in the old world, if she survives transitioning from the old world to the new world, she can finally redefine herself. And right now I see a lot of young girls are on the track being groomed to be somebody's wife, to be somebody's sexual plaything, to be given, to be pimped out to the nearest man. No different than when the families in the old world would go and arrange marriages, like in India and other places. Okay, I wouldn't want to live in places where they arrange marriages. Oh my God, hell no. But then we have our own issues here in the West with women trapped in either being a sex bomb and using her body that way, and she claims she's free, but she's stuck in that image of cultivating that kind of stuff, or she's forced into being a wife. How are they forced? Because what are you going to do if you have your own issues and whatever, and you're feeling like you're missing out on relationship, you're missing out on family, you're missing out on all that stuff, you'll be wild for a minute, like Paris Hilton, like Lindsay Lohan, like even Britney Spears. But then you're gonna have the draw to be in some kind of family unit, to be in some type of stable relationship. Because running so hard to keep up with everybody is so tiring. And women, we have evolutionary symptoms all the time, whether it's PMS, PMDD, or raising children, or having children, and told to have sex all the time with somebody at some point. Because that's what women here in the United States have been bred for. It's like we have been bred to be the sex bombs for the world. And so that's why there's so much human trafficking. Because so many girls here, not even in Ohio, but all over the United States and even other countries, were bred to be so sexy, and then they're shipped off over into different parts of extremely traditional lifestyles where men are in control, and the women are nothing more than just a sex thing for them, and then thrown away when they don't do what the men ask. And so we have developed that in our girls, because if they're not going to go into academics and be groomed for something amazing, okay, so you have a college degree in something. So you'll compete like everybody else. And then you find that the jobs are not there that you think are going to give you that respectability of academic excellence and whatever else you think is going to happen when you go to college. Then it's looking for the right man. Oh, how do I know this? Because that's what I figured out. That's how I found my survival. But I didn't stay stuck in that role of being a wife and playing second fiddle to my husband. Not only did I help my husband get ahead to where he is and support him that way, but then I eventually had to take care of myself and get myself ahead while I'm playing the role of wife and, yeah, because I'm not a mother, but I had a dog. All right? So I know the games these girls are facing. I know the games that are being played right now. And I feel bad for both men and women right now in this society with traditional parents. Even though they might think they're progressive because they're in California, they're still stuck in those two, the trappings of sex and the trappings of baby making and wifery. That's pretty much the only two options, because if not, then they're going to be hanging out with groupies, with girls, ruminating how there's no men out there, and they go and party and have sex everywhere. Because what else are they going to do? Maybe go to their job, but their job is not fulfilling. So then they go into things that are fun. So yeah, there's not a lot of options for women and girls today, unless they finally figure out they don't need their girlfriends. They don't need a husband. They don't need their parents around them telling them what to do and where to go. But again, the women have taught the men and women how to control her. You see the enslavement of women in Hollywood when Kanye's wife, Bianca, is expected to walk around naked in Italy, as per her husband, just short of a collar and a leash. So now you're seeing the enslavement of women in Hollywood. Not only Britney Spears being forced to be sexualized at a young age and forced to perform, and now she's fallen apart. But now you're seeing these women who are wives of these very rich men who are wielding their riches over these women. And these women are desperate for love, desperate for the trappings of wealth. And that's how they get victimized and used as a tool. No different than trying to be famous with that guy R. Kelly, and how the parents gave their daughters to R. Kelly. And now you go watch Netflix R. Kelly, and you saw what he did to those women because the parents were so desperate for their kid to be famous at the expense of their child. And then you see the girls in the poor areas looking to make money. And then you have an MLM of women being trafficked by a woman, Ghislaine Maxwell, who is serving the man Epstein. That's how women have trained men to abuse her. Women have trained men to totally disrespect her. Women have trained men to only treat her as a fucking sex object, and that's it. Or a wife, or a baby maker, or a babysitter. I've seen someone advertise for their daughter to go babysit people. A 16-year-old girl advertising her to go babysit other people's families. You're putting your daughter in a strange person's home. A stranger. That's how these fathers and mothers put their children in danger. It's not like, hey, why don't you go take a class and learn this? Oh no, go babysit someone else's fucking kids. And put her in a home of someone who she doesn't even fucking know. Yeah, she's 16. But there's some pretty crazy ass people out there, and they also have families. That's why these girls right now don't stand a chance, because of how the parents deal with society. They're totally fucking oblivious. If I had a 16-year-old daughter right now and she was doing relatively okay, I'd be getting her into some kind of academics. I'd be cultivating her brain. I'd figure out something. I'd have her release her demons so she's not run by her fucking hormones. And I want her to learn everything. I want her to learn everything. And if she's that wild and crazy, like a lot of women are wild and crazy and have to have sex because they have the raging ass hormones, they have to release those demons. And when they release those demons, they will then can sit at a computer or sit somewhere and read something and study something and write about something. It's not just, hey, how fast can we get the girl into the job market? She's 16. She needs to cultivate her brain and enjoy, learning about stuff. I mean, but that's what I'm saying. Now we're seeing how nature and nurture develop then the girl who doesn't even know her own fucking potential. You see the enslavement of women when Kris Kardashian pimps out her daughters to the world, and mothers today who are copying what the matriarch of the Kardashian family is doing. You see the Hiltons doing the same thing, the Stepford wife community, programming women to be sexual slaves and influencers for young girls to model after. You see also the enslavement in women promoting some kind of religion and family to compare against single, sexually free women of the 1960s. The kicker is, both women have been royally enslaved by their mothers and fathers. So now you see why we haven't seen a break in this whole generational of sexual slavery and pigeonholing the woman and then giving the man all the power. Again, I'm not a man hater, but I know what women are capable of. They're capable of training people to hate her or love her. She's capable of training people to disrespect her or respect her. But why can't the man? Because the men are not evolutionary. They've been given so much fucking power. They don't have the kids. They're the ones that give the seed. They don't take anything unless they're gay and they take it in the ass. But again, even then, are they that evolutionary? The feminine side of a same-sex relationship. And so it's going to take the woman who bears the babies, who's gone through the fucking pain of bearing the babies, of going through the changes once a month. It's the women. It's the women that raise the fucking kids, that are given the kids most of the time. And to the men, you know, they go out there and they have their fun, they drink and they do whatever they do, and they pat each other on the back, and they're a part of the good old boys club, and they come back to their woman. And if they're that mean to their women, then the women have to leave and become single mothers. Or the women have been victimized by her own family, and the man can't handle her erraticness, her trauma and drama. See, women rule the fucking world. But they also develop weaknesses within themselves because they don't see themselves as evolutionary. They've been programmed so heavily by not only their mothers, but also by the men in our society. And so you're going to see now that when you Google 2045 and infertility, yeah, eventually the men are going to be, they're not going to be able to produce sperm. And they're going to have their own issues with that. And so I said, just FYI, I'm not knocking anyone out there. We all were and have been trained by the system of professionals to self-destruct. Not everyone is going to make it to 2045, but please give yourselves and families half a chance. We already observed girls hitting puberty younger and younger and younger, and some girls at 16 look 30. The environment is accelerating, and men will also become not viable at some point, which means they won't be able to produce sperm. You must understand how detrimental it is to pursue the remedies market in this day and age. Someone must break the cycle, or else your whole family is gone by 2050. You and your offspring must be the strongest, because look at the future intentions. The trend of these statistics implies that human sperm will be approaching zero by roughly 2045. Also, make no mistake, female fertility is being affected too. Girls are experiencing earlier puberty, and women's eggs are losing viability at younger ages. Okay? So they're already telling you, now that the environment has changed, and people can blame the V's, they can blame all the therapies, but it's the environment. When the environment is that accelerated, and people are using remedies against their body's immune system, then yes, you're going to cause then not only infertility, but you also cause death and destruction in your genetic line. Because, you know, my last period was in June, and it wasn't since February that I had a period. So right now we're in August. And so it might take another crazy frequency change to cause me to drop an egg or a few eggs, because eggs develop when there is instability, some kind of senescence. Because you can break down and also come back together like that. But right now the aging process is people are breaking down and they're not coming together. They're breaking down, they're in constant entropy, which is thermodynamics. And when you're starving and you're using remedies against yourself, you're not bringing things together, so you're not going to produce eggs. That's the thing. If you are, when you have absolutely no period, especially in a dynamic environment, then when you are infertile, it means then you will not be able to even keep yourself alive, much less bear a child to carry on the genetic line. So the fact that I even got a period in June says that when the environment is that aggressive, and I'm waiting for October to see how aggressive the environment will be, and then I might drop an egg in October. So it could be a quarterly thing. But when women drop eggs all the time, it's because they have been exposed to so much diversity, they hold so much damage within, they're still viable. I mean, as a human, they're still able to function. But she's been programmed to drop eggs for a certain amount of time, for the most part. The general population, there's always exceptions. And then at some point, at 50, she hits menopause. She gets the hot flashes. She doesn't want to feel it, so she goes takes drugs and other types of hormones to stop that, or take out her uterus if it's that bad. And so she actually self-destructs. When really hot flashes is the body now trying to come back together after being programmed to procreate, to be a brood mare. Okay? And so women have mischaracterized even their change from being a fertile baby-making machine for science experiments and nation building to then finally be an autonomous, but then she destroys her own autonomy by mischaracterizing menopause. But it's not even menopause like, see, menopause is like the complete stoppage of the period, but people have the whole thing with having periods quarterly or based upon the environment, how aggressive it is, that could also be construed as menopause because of the symptoms like hot flashes and all that. But if you're able to drop an egg because of instability in the environment, then that means, and you are evolving. You're not assuming that you have this menopause, and then of course all of the symptoms that go along with that, and then treating them at the same time, and then become even more infertile because you're treating your symptoms. And then there's a self-fulfilling prophecy that the woman is not viable anymore once she leaves the fertility stage of her life. And so the whole J world, you'll feel the hot flashes like I do. I feel heat, but it's very brief now. And I release the demons. I might sweat, and I know that when I eat food, I sweat because the body is working the way it's supposed to. My temperature changes all the time whenever I eat food or whenever it gets hotter, and I feel it and I release, and everything is great. There's nothing wrong with me. But when you mischaracterize and you purposely characterize symptoms as something to treat, something to destroy, then that self-fulfilling prophecy that you're supposed to die someday gets realized. And that's the downfall of women and men, because they treat their symptoms and they mischaracterize them. And they train the world around them to destroy them and to reinforce the destruction at some point, like around 50, 60, or any kind of disease that comes up. So women who are selling remedies, not only are you disabling your daughters from evolving and maturing properly, but you could also be causing infertility through aggressive deterioration in your sons. So azoospermia means there's no sperm in the man's ejaculate. It includes a blockage along the reproductive tract, hormonal problems, ejaculation problems, or issues with testicular structure or function. Okay, so when you think of years and years of using all the remedies to stop the body from releasing, could a man still, this is where we have yet to find out how men are going to deal with evolution. When they stop producing sperm, it's being held inside, not being released. It means it's keeping them whole, right? It's keeping them whole. They can release other ways, through their anus, as far as all the poop. They can release through the sweat glands, through the blowing of the nose. But the men have been taught to release through their penis, which takes away their life force. That's why seminal conservation is so necessary, because it keeps the man relatively viable if he can handle dealing with conserving his semen and not releasing. Because, yeah, they get blue balls. We know that. But if a man keeps his sperm and releases the other demons, would he turn into a woman? I don't even know what the hell. But we're gonna find out. There's some men in the J world that understand kind of where I'm going. They want to live. I couldn't tell you if they're going to turn into a woman or turn into like a eunuch or something. But I think men deserve to live. Men have a lower pain threshold within. They can handle external pain because they're guys jockeying around back and forth, hitting each other. But if men can handle the internal pain of releasing, but not through their penis, but through other places, and they can cough and sneeze and blow their nose and pull out the shit, we'll see. You see how my hair has changed over the last 3 years? You see my body has changed over the last 3 years? Yeah, men's bodies are going to change. Change to what? We don't know. It's still very early to tell. And so, yeah, there'll be pain down there. That's why men get all weird around sex. They want it. They need it. They have to have it because it's the release. That's how their body was trained to release. And so if their body's trained to release that way, then they're trained for the rest of their body to go and do their work and then go and chase women and chase alcohol and chase sex and drugs and rock and roll, right? And so women, when you are so infertile, that also means you'll not be able to keep yourself alive because you have failed to balance out your immune system properly. You kept disabling your immune system through the cures, herbs, supplements, and drug market. All right? And so, yeah, women can also damage themselves like that. I don't want to be so fertile, meaning that my body's breaking down and it has to drop eggs all the time. But I want to be able to adapt to my environment. So if my environment is so aggressive, causing me to have a period, that's great. But if the environment is, if I can't acclimate to the environment, and that's the thing with fertility, it means that you can't acclimate to the environment. You keep dropping eggs. Every single time, every month, you keep dropping eggs. That was built into the woman, into the girl. Now, we only drop eggs when the environment is so necessary. And I think it's from a frequency, a major frequency change. Because I'm around people, and you get microbes. Will that be enough to cause such a frequency change to where you drop eggs? My husband comes home off the road. He has a lot of diversity within him. He sees people, he's out there taking in microbes from different states even. He comes home, I feel fine. Before, when he would come home, and then I was also making that association, when he'd come home, I'd get sick or feel something. But there's also frequency changes that were happening on the weekends, and probably even more so on a Friday. We noticed, some of us in the J world noticed that we feel frequency changes happen more often around a Friday afternoon and a Saturday. And so when the system is playing with the frequencies and it happens more on Friday and Saturday, and then that's when your husband or wife, whatever, comes home from a week-long trip, then you're going to assume it's them causing you sickness, when in reality it's the environment that was so unstable causing you sickness. Maybe that person, the other person, didn't really feel it. If they do, it's very minor, but you felt it, so then you made correlation equals causation. And that's the pitfalls that men and women and people who don't understand their immune system will fall into, is blaming someone or something for their issues. When in reality, they have to release their demons. They have to be the one to feed and eat the food. And so when women have been programmed for sex and raising children, and she's finally able to gain her autonomy and not to be a slave to sex and family, the system will squelch her ability to redefine herself and bully her into accepting death eventually, while she suffers on her way out the door. That is the danger of the family to women. She is the human sacrifice to be replaced when appropriate. And so whether it's she's not viable as a mother anymore, and so the daughter's like, okay, I'm not listening to you, Mom, now it's me going to be ruling over you, or the husband replaces her for somebody younger because he has that much money. Yeah, women have been programmed to be replaceable, to be the sacrificial lamb. To not only be the all-loving mother who will then love her family and friends to death and was trained to give antibiotics to her friends and family, but she also will be the one sacrificed when she is not useful anymore. Look at the nursing homes. And a lot of women do outlive their husbands. Husbands are breaking down faster than the wives are. When wives are not getting as much aspergers as well as autism, but the men are, that ought to tell you where the men are going to be ranking now and in the future. Before, women had all the PMS and all the bullshit because the environment was really crazy, and so the drugs and all the other things were speeding up people's systems or slowing them down relative to your biochemistry. And the men were somewhat affected, but not really. But the rise in autism tells you that the man is going to have a hard time adapting to these environments. And especially on top of his traditions and habits of drugs and alcohol and constant sex. Okay. What are the greatest effects of infertility for women? Research on infertility has found that feelings of stress, anger, guilt, depression, grief, anxiety, withdrawal, decreased self-esteem, loss of relationship, and decreased financial security for women who become infertile. And you can even assume that infertility means that she will never have a period again. She is now not viable even for a baby, and she will not be viable even for herself pretty soon in the future. And so when you have other women out there, and I remember this in the J world, when I didn't have, early on the J world, and I don't have kids, right? And I'm talking about family and kids and all this other shit, right? And these girls, they're like in their 20s, who have a bunch of children. They're like, oh, you're so jealous that you don't have a child, Jillian. You're barren. You're this, you're that. Oh, see, that's how women have fucked up their own gender. That's how women have fucked up each other. Because they're constantly bullying each other into having children. That's their social capital. That's their identity. That's what they use as a weapon against other women. And so then these women who are dealing with infertility, like Jennifer Aniston. I saw that Adam Sandler sent her flowers every year on the anniversary of her trying to have a baby. And you're seeing all over Hollywood, all the girls, once all the wild children sowed their wild oats, now they're respectable because they got married and they have a bunch of children. Now she's the Gaia. She is the all-loving, self-sacrificing mother. And if a woman can't be that, then she is stressed out. She's angry. She feels guilty. She's depressed. She's grieving. She's anxiety. She's withdrawing. She's decreasing self-esteem, loss of relationships, and decreased financial security. Because she will take herself out of the mix because she feels that less of herself. And her little cohorts, her little friends, her family also think less of her. That's how the woman has trained people to disrespect her and trained her. And she has trained other people to disrespect her when she doesn't fulfill the obligation that she never actually developed. It was somebody else's obligation, somebody else's expectations. That's why the family is so detrimental. Very detrimental. Family is a killer for women. It literally is. The family is a killer for women. And women are a killer for women. And men are a killer for women. A woman has to save herself. I used to think it was lucrative to be a male. I did not have a penis envy. I have penis envy, but I like the fact they had the ability to perform daily without dealing with evolution or fertility or PMS. If I didn't have the fucking PMS, I would have kicked fucking ass in whatever I was doing. Because I could keep going for 2 weeks on, and then 2 weeks I'd be like, pull myself out of a hole. So if I was a man, I would be rich. And my husband said, if I was a woman, I'd be rich too, because I'd have sex with everybody and I have them pay for it. I'm like, Jason, if you're a woman, you would not be in that position. You would not want to be having sex with everybody because you know the stigma. And if you don't know the stigma, then you have been had by the men. Oh, believe me, my husband does not want to be a woman because the dynamics is so different. And of course, even a man too. But I understand what men go through. I get what they go through. But I'd be the kind of man where I'm not going to take care of a family and a wife. I'd just be getting rich and live in a big house and have a bunch of animals. And because I wouldn't know about the whole thing, I wouldn't have the J world. But if I was a man, I would have been fucking rich. I would have been Wall Street. I would have been one of those in Wall Street. If I had that background. But I have the sciences background, not so much of the financial background. But if I was raised in a financial world background and I was a man, I would have been those guys in the boiler rooms. I would have been finding ways to fucking take everyone's money. Because that's where I was at. I was selling everything under the sun as far as insurance and appointments and I was working my ass off. But I had a monkey in my back, which was okay. But now I feel sorry for most men out there who are under the direction of women who have been trained to destroy through the medical illegal system. I would not want to be a man in this society now. The women hold all the power. They literally hold all the power. Even though, we have these men that are in high levels of government, but they are run by the women who cause them to spill their seed. They are run by the women who are around them, who are used as a tool to go and program other women. If women figured out how to take back her power and not fall into the lifestyles that's forced on her to be a sexually free female of the 1960s or a brood mare, she can do so much. When I've let go of everyone around me, and my husband, he's hardly around either, When he finally realized he couldn't control me and shut me up, because I'm sure he's traditional. His wife represents him. But I told him, no, I represent myself. I have my own fucking mind. And you represent you. What you do has really no reflection on me, really. You make the choices. You have the skill sets to do whatever. I didn't give you those skill sets. We just both found a way to merge skill sets together and develop a team type of thing. But I am no reflection of you. I do my thing. I don't disrespect him. I don't go out there and do things to make him look bad. I just have my own ideas on stuff that might conflict with the traditional people out there. So yeah, women hold all the power. Okay? They do. And so yeah, a woman really needs to figure out how to get out from under her family. Because her mother will destroy her. And so will her father at some point. But she's not old enough or experienced enough. Assuming that she survives her childhood and her young adulthood and dealing with how to deal with sex on the street. Because that's how she's going to learn it. Yeah, you can learn it clinically, but still you got to learn sex on the street. That's how these women are being forced into these types of situations. Or she's getting pimped out. Arranged marriages. And so, yeah, women have not only been victimized and been enslaved, but they also hold the power because they're their mother enslaving her own fucking daughters and sons. So now, after all that, please do not mistake me for being a man-hater. If anything, it is quite the opposite. I really adore all the men out there and admire their power and strength because I wish I could have been them. Because they have the ability to make so much fucking money. They do. They don't have fucking periods. They don't have to bear children. They can go out there and fucking chase the wealth as much as they want. And the women who have to build babies and be the sex bomb then have to kowtow to them and allow them to take care of us. I know what I signed up for. I know exactly what I went into. I know exactly what these women also do. How many women out there are teaching their girls to be spinsters? To not have too many girlfriends, if at all. How to be on her own, developing her brain without buying into all the bullshit of alcohol and drugs and constant social capital. How many women have even thought about either that for themselves? To be by themselves, not be part of a religion or a political thought process or a scientific dogma. How many women are willing to stay home every fucking weekend and just study and write and develop her fucking brain? How many women out there are even given that option to their own fucking children? 0 to none. I can probably assure you that. 0 to none. Because it's not accepted in their circles of influence. It's not accepted at all. I have an issue with the women training the man to self-destruct and the man continually allowing her to self-destruct herself. I have an issue with one or both parties not wanting to evolve. But that's the cross I must bear. It's none of my business what you guys do in your family. I can only raise awareness and that's it. And so that's why it is grim to be young and female as well as young and male. Because you're going to chase tail until that tail goes and whips you with its tail. Or you're going to chase Prince Charming. You're going to chase Prince Charming. And you see the women on Facebook. They're raised by baby boomers. And they've had bad marriages or bad relationships. And so their only go-to is now keep looping in how fucked they were by not having, by the man in their life that never stayed in their life. And they're looking for Prince Charming. They're looking for the man to love her child, to love her, and to be the all-sacrificing man that will work 90 hours a week just for her, to cater just to her. And you see them stuck in it, but that's hope. That hope of that Prince Charming is keeping her alive. But now you see what runs the women out there. Now you see what runs the men out there. The hope of something is keeping them alive until they're done. Because they haven't figured out what their intention is and they haven't figured out how to change. But they live on that hope and they die in that hope. Remember the Me Too movement and girl power movement? Hashtag Me Too movement, hashtag girl power. Was not just for the women and girls taking back their power. But it's also misusing her power to destroy everyone through wrath from being forced into victimhood developed in the 1950s and 1960s. And so all these women that are like, oh, about Me Too and everything, right? Oh yeah, Me Too, against Weinstein, Epstein, all the different power players out there. And then now they're saying, okay, it's all about girl power. Girl power for what? To be a wife? To be a baby maker? To be a sex bomb? We have enough people that have been groomed for all the innovation. We have the infrastructure. We have projected 12.9 billion. Right now, 8 billion. And we have enough minds that have been compartmentalized out there. Okay. So, what kind of girl power are you giving to your females? Oh, that's right. She's going to be a wife and a sex bomb. Because now the girls now are all hair, skinny body, and looking for the nearest dude to procreate with. All right, so the system told her how to channel her anger, and the women of Epstein still did not get money or justice, just used again to titillate people and to be used as an example. While the trials against the rapist men were titillating and opportunistic, the fact those crimes against women were allowed to happen for so long takes the wind out of the sails of the equality for women. There was no justice for them. It was all just drama, courtroom drama, and then a Netflix series. And then they were exploited. And what did they get out of that? Absolutely nothing. Embarrassment, and maybe being heard, and maybe a little bit of a career. But that's about it. Can you imagine having that type of crime that was done to you plastered all over the fucking newspapers? And they have to survive that. Not only survive the initial crime, but survive the reliving of it. People knowing that's what happened to you. That you fell into that because of how society has portrayed women. And yet, she was gaslit yet again. Unless women set themselves free, they will continuously be enslaved by someone who serves to use their body, mind, and spirit to destroy. Because now we're in a scale down. Now we're in a scale down. Nobody in their family will encourage them to use their mind, only their body. Remember, you see these women posting their girls in booty shorts and long hair and makeup, showing their body all over the fucking internet. These girls are not going to use their mind. They will be using their body. And they'll be just short of OnlyFans, maybe teetering the line with Instagram and YouTube and Facebook. Some may not go all the way to OnlyFans, but some will. Because what else are they going to fucking do? Sell you fucking religion? Sell you an activist stance? Sell you a science dogma? A pill? An antibiotic? A supplement? Sell you spirituality? Sell you love? Sex? Sell you religion? So nobody in their family will encourage them to use their mind, only their body. They will be pimped out to the nearest husband or be told to be a sexually free female and do everybody because she can, because now she's free, allegedly. When a sexually free female is legitimized through motherhood, who's the slave here? Again, look at Paris Hilton. When a mother must leave her abusive husband raising the kid by herself, who is the slave here? Women do get the short end of the stick, while the man may be admonished for not staying with the family. If he leaves, his reason might be he needed to save himself from the drama of the woman who was victimized by her own fucking family. He would not be wrong, as women have been victimized by family members, local boys and teens, and then forced to still stay in the game because she has a child. It's a no-win situation for any family member. That's why it's incumbent upon the woman to finally evolve, or else she will set up everyone fit to fail, even the men and boys. Geez, Jillian, you sound like you're a woman hater. No. I see that women are training their women and boys to self-destruct. If the woman learns how to fucking change and evolve, she could save herself and her family. But I see women training the men and the boys to self-destruct, stay in those traditional lifestyles, and then cause vast amounts of suffering because of their rigid belief systems. Very rigid belief systems. And I'm telling you, they are in the religions, they're in the science dogmas, and they are in the politics. And so my next book, when you think about it, The American Are Evolution, Revolution, Beyond the Feminine Mystique. Because the feminine mystique was like saying, okay, now we're not in the 1950s anymore. Women, they don't find satisfaction in serving the man barefoot and pregnant and cooking and cleaning and raising children. And maybe, a career, but even goes beyond that. But then the other side of it was, oh yeah, she can be sexually free. While the men go out there and play with all the women, so can women. They can play with all the men and be just like the man. You're still serving the man, woman. And so it's beyond the feminine mystique. So Google the feminine mystique and read about that. Wikipedia gives you a nice synopsis. And so when you think about it, remember how I had my issues with my mother, right? My issues with my mother. I've told you guys about that. I am my mother's daughter with a twist. So I love and respect my mother. I absolutely do. And I absolutely fucking hate her sometimes when I think about what I had to deal with to grow up. But both of the love and the hate, she influenced the fuck out of me. And this is what she developed. This is what my mother developed. She's still she's a fucking smart woman. Amazing fucking woman. And so I am my mother's daughter with a twist. The people who you love the most and hate the most are the most influential people in your world. Now you see the power of women. They have the power to destroy life, and they also have the power to develop life. And whoever loves them and hates them the most will follow right in her footsteps or do the exact opposite. And if moms are teaching death, their children will not do the exact opposite unless somebody else gets to them. So if you're not giving your daughters and sons another different way of looking at the world, I don't care if you're in politics, religion, science, and whatever, if you're teaching them that they're supposed to die someday, you will take down your whole fucking family. You will take down your sons and your daughters and your husbands and your wives. So if you're teaching death to your children through politics, religion, science, they have nowhere to fucking go. You are the hand that turns the head and destroys the body. And so, but if you're a mom who wants to be, but if you, mom, want to be God, and you will not allow your child to evolve, you will become the angel of death to your children and your family. It's only the women who understand where I'm coming from who might give their children and world 50% chance of surviving. Because either you're going to follow what I'm doing and understand where I'm coming from, literally intend to, and potentially even save yourself, because no guarantee anything, right? Or you do the complete opposite of what I'm doing and stay with whatever you're doing, and then you will. The outcome is obvious, okay? Everyone dies out there who follows the medical, holistic, energy healing world. So if you understand kind of where I'm coming from and you introduce that somewhere in your world, you might give people around you a 50% chance of fucking surviving if you open your mouth or share some of my information. And so then, if that's only like maybe 5 people in the J world that are sharing my information, then the rest of the women and mothers are the death angels. We thank you for your service. The system thanks you for your contribution to mankind because you're taking yourself out of the genetic mix. You're not going to be taxing the environment. You're not going to be utilizing resources. You're not going to be having a billion fucking kids. You're not going to be buying all these baubles. You're not going to be promoting all these different death protocols out there, causing more suffering. You'll be gone. And we thank you for sacrificing yourself, and thank you for sacrificing your family, and thank you for sacrificing your children, especially the elderly, supplement, herbalist, energy healing people, because you know how influential you are, and you were made to be influential. And so you will take down everyone around you. Guaranteed. because they worship you. And that's exactly what the system intended. They wanted the older women that look like part of the Manson clan with their filmy outfits and their occultic spiritual ways, selling you herbs and supplements. They wanted you to have the power to take down your whole genetic line and take down everyone around you as you keep recommending them herbs and extracts and detoxes and antibiotics. When the school system teaches dying and reproducing, and you at home are literally teaching saving her family, his own life, right? So if you understand the J world and you have to give your kids to school because you're not homeschooling them. And if you did, you still have a curriculum to uphold. And so they get 8 hours out of their day told that they should die and reproduce on some level. And then you at home are trying to save them on some level by letting them release the demons and feed them food and tell them, okay, you don't have to die someday. It will be a crapshoot how children will end up someday. This is why parents must save themselves, because if they save themselves, they have literally a 100% chance of saving themselves if they're not in hospice or dealing with a major condition. But a kid has 50% chance if there is a parent in there that said, okay, you don't have to fucking die someday. But if you as a parent says your kid has to die someday, through politics, religion, and science, they don't have a fucking chance to save themselves at all whatsoever. Unless they hear my information. This is why the parents must save themselves. However, if the parents are all about dying and ascending using religion and spirituality to justify ending up ascending, forget it. That family is gone. It will just be a matter of time. Watch your Facebook. The programming runs deep, and it is hard to compete against socialized education and medicine. Yeah, I can't compete with the big families out there. I can't compete with the medical system out there. I can't compete with the education out there. Okay, I can't compete with that. I can only drop a seed and hope somebody out there who is relatively evolutionary can kind of see where I'm coming from and potentially save themselves. There's no guarantee they'll save their family. But if they can save themselves, they give their family a better chance of surviving. Because mothers are that fucking influential. That influential. And I found it increasingly or extremely difficult to compete against politics, religion, and science dogmas. That programming, that religion, oh my God, the religious programming, whether it's Christianity, Judaism, all the different religions out there, it's relatively impenetrable. There have been generations of people raised on those thought processes and belief systems. And many of them are women out there. Yeah, there's some men that pound the Bible and all that stuff, but there's a lot more women on my Facebook that drop scripture. Oh, you hear the thunder. There are so many women on my Facebook that will kill you with kindness, that will drop scripture, kill you with kindness, and promote love, 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 and spirituality. That's why I don't have too much hope for most humans. They might kind of get where I'm coming from, but biophysically, they are heavily programmed, and their community reinforces that programming. And so when you have women in politics, in religion, and in science, okay, pounding the gavel and reinforcing all of the death programming out there, yeah. When women are that influential, good luck. Good luck. Give me 1 second. To strengthen the brawn and organ. Oh, okay. Good luck. Give me 1 second. All right. I'm going to do something. All right, I just blocked Honey Baba. Some guy named Honey Baba blocked his profile. Trolls are out in force. All right. So this is why I don't have too much hope for most humans. They might get where I'm coming from, but biophysically, they are heavily programmed, and their community reinforces that programming. And yes, the women reinforce the death programming. So many women and the men reinforce the death programming. And they reinforce it with pills, powder, supplements, detoxes, and religion. So now you see why the hippies/squares still work off one another. The depopulation agenda through the women of the Manson family and the squares who resist them, religion, spirituality, have turned into organic herbalist religious communes. All right? So now you can't tell the difference between a hippie and a religious person because they're both promoting the same thing. Death and reproduction and organic eating and herbal extracts, occultic type of worship. And so that's why it's very hard to penetrate hardly anyone out there, because only a few people will get it, because most people are very programmed to stop the evolution. Most 99.99% of people on my Facebook will not get this. They will stop evolution. They will justify it. They will find a way to absolve themselves from any wrongdoing as far as violating the laws of life, and they will justify it. And so when I said hope fuels existence, no matter what you hope for, it fuels your existence and it gives you the energy to keep going. Whether it's hoping for a peaceful time, hoping for Mr. Right, hoping that the world will get rid of the evil people, hoping you accomplish whatever goals you have set out for, hope will always keep you alive. However, you cannot live on hope alone. It's just to fuel your intentions. It's the gas, it's the power, it's the currency, it's the energy. And when people are hoping for Mr. Right, they're hoping that the world will end in whatever way. They hope they can beat their disease. They hope whatever. They take the energy out of themselves. That hope just bleeds them dry. That's the issue with living on hope. Because if your intention is to pass away, whatever you're hoping for is not really make a difference, because that energy is taking the energy out of you. That energy is cannibalizing you. And so hope fuels your intentions. It's the gas, it's the power, it's the currency, it's the energy. Now you have to ask the question, what is your intention? You'll be surprised what people say their intention is and how it translates in their daily life, and their belief systems will surprise you. When you understand the laws, not believe all the stories, you'll see people's hope and intention are severely misaligned. Their intentions are actually somebody else's intentions. They never owned their own intention. They just acted out the programming that was forced on them as a child. And they were given positive reinforcement if they stayed within that intention. And so if you want to align your intentions, do what you truly intend as an outcome. You first must develop hope. Hope for yourself, hope for a better world, hope that you can survive. Then you intend to understand every single story out there. You intend to be more than what someone has told you to be. And that does take maturity. Okay? And so, yes, the hope gives you the fuel, but that hope will fuel your intention. And if your intention is to pass away, that hope for a better world and all that shit will mean that you will then take yourself out of the mix and pass away. You will take yourself out of that mix and pass away, and you will give that hope to the world. You have given up, you have sacrificed yourself. And so when women and men sell supplements and detoxes and herbs and extracts and diets and yoga regimes, their intention is to sacrifice themselves and sacrifice their family for the common good. And again, we thank you for your service. We thank you for what you contributed to the last however many years of your generations. And so this is beyond feminism. I'm not a feminist at all. Remember, I'm married to a traditionalist. Now, I understand the whole feminism was to give a woman an alternative choice, but was still trapped in the submission and the programming that she was meant to do. Because even though she may have raised the kids in the 1950s, so she had the power to raise the kids while the men was out there battling the world, she still had the power. But then when she got tired of that, then the system gave her another choice. Okay, go to work and be sexually free. And that was still a programming that she had to deal with, and they're still suffering along with that because the image and the money it takes to keep up that kind of image and that appearance, and then the harm you do to your body for plastic surgery and diets and starvation, and afraid of food and afraid of chemicals and afraid of everything. and then you're allowing men and women to do damage to you on a constant basis relative to the needs in that situation. Yeah, that's another suffering for fucking women. That's another suffering for the girls. And the mothers program their girls to be that. That's why it'll be very difficult for women to really get ahead in this world because of how in-depth the programming is. And so there's, so let me segue into this. What about the pressure that's building? So there's a picture of a tire that has a big bubble, and pressure needs to be released because there's too much pressure in the tire to cause that bubble. Okay? When you lock up your body from releasing, and that's all relative, right? That big bubble, it could be like a child, it could be a cancer, it could be a disease, it could be a chronic illness. Yeah, that's what happens. Your body is under pressure. And that little bubble starts taking over and weakening the parent, or it explodes and you don't survive the energy conversion during that explosion. Okay, and that's right now what people are dealing with. They're under so much pressure and it's sucking the life out of them, so they're very skinny. And they're emaciated and they're starving. Or they're bigger and bigger and bigger, gaining so much pressure that does tax the vital organs. And it causes melting of converting the collagen into gelatin, and also weakens the vital organs and takes the energy away from the parent, which is you. Because you can be a parent to your juvenile cells. You can have more parent cells than juvenile cells in your body, and you wouldn't have cancer. If you have more juvenile cells than parent cells in one place or all over the place, then you're aging out, or you have a disease that's usurping your energy. And so, yeah, we have parents that are not understanding this, and they're taking the energy out of their children. And they can't handle evolution. They can't handle life. That's why these mothers take food away from their kids, because there is nutrients, and when the body's immune system triggers because of food and air and water, mothers are afraid to trigger their kid's immune system, so they disable it. They starve the kid, or they take elderberry syrup, or do operations. They cut out the evolution, the life. That's how women have been trained to destroy their family. And so, yeah, we're in this now interesting time where there's so much barium and aluminum that is not poison, because you can release those demons, but that's going to cause an LCD sky, a plasma sky, to then give us the show. The last greatest show on earth. Not the Ringling Brothers in the circus, which you probably call it that. It could be some kind of alien invasion, or some second coming of God or something, or Christ. All right, so then I think about, I'll read this. Russ Tanner is a major leader in the chemtrails world. I got exposed to him way back in 2012. He also sells supplements and detoxes and everything, so that's where I kind of don't agree, but I also like the awareness that he does put out there, but I don't like the solutions, but that's whatever. Everyone has their different solutions. But this guy said to Russ, I know I've said this before, but my friend's dad worked for the government in the early 90s, and back then she said they were trying to make a huge TV screen in the sky. He got death threats for exposure. I say, question everything. Question what you read, hear, and see. Everything, anything is possible. And then I said, FYI, and all the barium and aluminum nanoparticles will conduct the atmosphere to not only be more aggressive with the weather, but also serve as a plasma TV screen to develop the alien invasion. And there'll be real-time direct energy types of weaponry, Mars attacks, Independence Day. The movies told you. Do the best you can to survive whatever comes your way, and you will be in 15-minute cities. So expect that. You will be in 15-minute cities. And so what are 15-minute cities? The concept takes several housing blocks and puts them into a super block. Only residents or delivery services have access with cars, and the maximum speed limit is 10 kilometers, 6 miles an hour. Many streets are blocked for cars and are instead being used in different ways. Okay, so there's going to be a concept of 15-minute cities. I've seen some where they have mixed-use buildings, where the building is a residence on the top, and then all the bars and the restaurants and the convenience stores and the bank or whatever is all in the bottom. Though you don't really need a bank if everyone's online. Okay? So, yeah, eventually everything will be electronic. You're not going to have cash. Already Taco Bell is taking away cash. It will be electronic. And we already knew this. People are resisting it, okay, fine. But that's kind of where we're going. But again, if you want to survive all this transition, you're going to have to deal with the pain of life. And you can't assume that life is pain-free. Oh, it's not. Life has never been pain-free, but you have been cured and under the influence and in a lower frequency environment. But the environment has sped up and been getting hotter and hotter. And that's why you're seeing autism. That's why you're seeing cancer disease and chronic illness. And when you have so many people in deficit, then the therapies have to come in to make up for your immune system. Because even though you don't agree with the VHCCINES, you're taking elderberry syrup. You're taking food away from your child. You're disabling your child's immune system. While the system is trying to help you give you your immune system through the therapies. But the ironic argument to those who are anti-V is you have an immune system. Well, stop disabling it with all the cures and the herbs and the extracts and the detoxes. But can you tell someone that who has been radicalized in that thought process for the last 20 fucking years? No, that's why we're in a great reset. So women will make or break the world. Choose wisely. Bye.